This is Iowa Everywhere. And now, it's time for Two Guys Named Chris, powered by Fareway Meat and Grocery. This is Iowa Everywhere. For the fans.
Hello and welcome to Two Guys Named Chris here on a Monday. It is Halloween. My favorite holiday. I love Halloween.
Your little ghosts and your goblins that you think are real. Now, do you
See,
think
I don't know
goblins
why-
are real as well?
I don't know.
Ghosts or are goblins real as well?
No, I'm not a goblins guy.
Okay.
Definitely a ghost. I don't know why you had to start the show being all condescending. Iowa beats Northwestern, and you think you can just walk on in here. Welcome to the show, everybody. We got an hour of misery for me, and I don't really know what to take of Iowa, so we'll get into that. This will be an interesting conversation.
Aren't you going to say anything about my Halloween outfit? You know who I'm dressed as?
No, who are you dressed as?
Iowa State Special Teams Coordinator. Because you could just, you just have to guess what that.
How do
person
you
might
know
look like.
what that guy?
I'm just
that-
saying that you just
they-
have to guess.
There's that guy that they brought in from the Rams.
No, not the analyst. I'm the coordinator. I'm the coordinator that doesn't exist. That's what I'm dressed as today.
The hassle is, I was a pickle over the weekend. I was a DILF walking around.
Dilf?
Yeah. Get it?
As in, Dad, I'd like to?
Yeah, but I was like a pickle, like a dill pickle.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
something else.
So
So you guys everybody in Des Moines already had their little shebang, huh? You're not
Yeah,
doing anything
so-
tonight.
Bondurant, where we live, they broke away from Des Moines. They're like, we're not doing Beggars Night anymore because it's stupid. And so Bondurant does it on the Saturday because it's a giant party. If you walk around Bondurant on trick-or-treating night, it's just everybody's got like fire pits and the adults are all drunk and the kids are just running around. It's crazy. So they do it on Saturday every year now. And so we
Okay.
did that Saturday, and then last night my kids are spoiled rotten. And we don't have school today here in town because of state volleyball. So, yeah.
You don't have school because of state volleyball.
Yeah, everybody's heading east. Small town, man. Like
Wait,
it's
your kids don't have school because of state volleyball?
Because
Your
Bondurant
kids are
made
in
it.
elementary school.
Bondurant made it. So we're all going to, the whole town will be in Iowa City later.
I think that's cool, and I loved going to state. When I was going to Muscatine, we would have like a girls' basketball team or a boys' basketball team go to state, and we would go, but they would still have school.
Yeah, well,
for
not
the
today.
people that didn't, because there are a lot of people that didn't care about sports.
Yeah,
that
well,
aren't going to travel to Des Moines.
those people are losers.
It's
So
true. they were losers.
yeah,
And they
we're
had to
the
go to
whole
school,
town.
we didn't.
Whole town. I'll be in Iowa City later. I'll go say hi to the Ferences for you. Yeah, heading there later today.
Oh, they're feeling good this week.
So so Bondurant had it on Saturday night, and like there were kids from every aspect of Des Moines in town trick or treating. Like it was a steady stream of kids for
So you're
like
telling me
3
there's
hours.
people that came from Des Moines. Do
Yeah.
you think they're going to double dip? So they travel in. It's almost like the old Seinfeld bottle deposit thing where they take the bottles to Michigan.
Giddy up.
So they come in on Saturday night, they trick or treat with you guys, and then they trick or treat in their own neighborhoods on Beggars Night.
Yep.
Wow,
That's exactly what we did. The same thing. So, and then my kids trick or treated in Ankeny with a bunch of friends last night. So we're all on a sugar
Your
high.
kids did too.
Yeah.
What the hell is wrong? And now it's Halloween, and you're not even going to do anything.
Oh, we're going to state volleyball. Nope. So,
Jeez, that's
anyway.
messed up, man.
Thanks to Fareway. I'm sure a bunch of people bought a bunch of candy at Fareway. We appreciate their sponsorship. I think I'm going to do ribs at the tailgate next week. I think I'm going to put in the time and do some ribs. I'm going to go to the meat locker. Yeah, I think I'm going to do it. So I'll keep you guys updated on that when I get to the Fareway meat locker in Ames on Friday.
Awesome.
To prep. Where are you at this week?
No, I'm going to Birmingham, baby.
Yes, the pride of Birmingham, Alabama.
Back to Birmingham.
Chris Hassel.
Got UTSA and UAB. And,
That's fun. That's two of our favorite teams here on Two Games named Chris.
Yeah, it should be a good game. UAB just lost again. I had their game at FAU on Saturday night, which had two of the greatest punts I've ever seen.
Dude, I saw your call on the one. It got passed around on Twitter. I didn't get to watch your game this week, but I saw it got tossed around on Twitter like the greatest punt ever.
This FAU punter kicks a 66-yarder that goes over the head of the return man, lands at the 1, bounces back to the 4, and then trickles ahead to the 1 again. Perfect. So he comes up again, this time kicking from a farther distance, kicks a 71-yarder, and it gets down at the 1. I've never seen anything like it.
What is it with you and elite punting? Everywhere you go,
it just follows me, Chris. It just follows me.
Oh, good for you.
It made up for Iowa not having to really use Torrey Taylor that much.
Well, and then my teams, we just get our punts blocked. So we just want to get the punt off. If we do that, we consider it a win. I guess we'll start with Iowa State because I get we.
Well, hang on a second. You got John Miller in the comments accusing me of hair plugs.
Oh wow, I didn't see that.
What the hell's going on?
Do you wear hair plugs?
No. Look.
I certainly don't. You can tell I don't. I'm just clinging to everything I've got here. Maybe one more year, and then I'm going to shave it all the time.
What do you think you'll do there?
I'll just shave it.
You shave it every year anyway for your
I
cause.
do. I do it for the St. Baldrick's thing, and every year it gets more and more difficult to grow back. It's like the Seinfeld episode where Elaine's dating the swimmer, and he's always shaved his head.
Oh, yeah.
And then he can't grow it back because she sees the picture of him.
2 Seinfeld references in the first 7 minutes of the show, Chris.
Is there a Seinfeld reference to bad offense with the Cyclones? Because I feel like that's where we have to start today.
Jeez.
Unfortunately, we got to be equal here on Two Guys Named Chris, and we've started with Iowa's bad offense for weeks upon weeks, so we have to do it with Iowa State.
And you know what
here.
we've said, Chris, is that as bad as it's been in Iowa City, it's kind of helped deflect all of the anger away from Iowa State. Well, this week it's not going to work.
I watched the game again yesterday. I was trying to rewatch. It was hard to watch this one. I'm just of the opinion now, Chris, where you kind of, we're at the point of the season where you are who you are, right? Like, and it's not like there's no like, oh, well, if we would have made that kick or no, I'm going to give you some numbers here for Iowa State's offense. Done this with Iowa a lot. Look where Iowa State is now. And I'm really zeroing in on the rushing game because that's where I think the biggest problem here is with Iowa State. Rushing yards per game, ranked 123rd. Rushing yards per attempt, ranked 121st. Total yards per play, 103rd. And giveaways per game, 99.
And for reference, there's 131 teams.
Correct.
So some of those categories, they're bottom 10, bottom 15.
This came from Bloom, that this is currently, if the season would end today, this would be Iowa State's worst rushing offense since 1985. So you're talking pre-Dan McCarney levels of bad rushing offense. So where does it start? Where do you point the fingers? Where do you do all that stuff? Strictly from a football standpoint, so clearly there's when you have numbers this bad, there's clearly more than one thing wrong, right? Like it's generally just the case. I really, watching that game back, their offensive line, man, this might be the worst of the Campbell era. That performance, at least on Saturday, I think was one of the worst offensive line performances we've seen. That's coming against a team that statistically was the worst rushing defense in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's against Oklahoma, and we know they have players. We know they have talent, but even in their win over Kansas, they gave up 42 points.
Yeah. So I do believe that, you're at a point here where Matt Campbell has to, and we'll give him, month of November. I don't think doing anything right now as far as coaching decisions or anything like that really makes a ton of sense for him at this point on November 1st, because you're 3-5. Like they're not gonna, whatever. We can get into that, but I do think that you're kind of at a point where it's a weird conversation because you haven't been bad at running the football, but you've also had pros masking a lot of this, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
we've seen how good Breece Hall is, and David Montgomery is still a starting running back with the Bears. I mean, those are two starting NFL running backs you had, and now you don't have that, and it's a big drop off.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you do the rest of the year? Like, I'm gonna keep harping it. Like, damn it, Deckers didn't run the ball until the fourth quarter in desperation time the other. And what did he do? He averaged 8 yards per carry. They've got to. They're at a point, Chris, where they can't line up and say, okay, we're gonna hand it off and get 4 yards. They can't do it against these Big 12. They just can't. For some reason, they can't. So they've got to just get more creative if they want to, throw a Hail Mary here and maybe qualify for a bowl. That seems like really, really far away at this point. They're still a 6-point favorite against West Virginia on Saturday.
Gotta beat West Virginia. I mean, it just has to happen. You have to beat them. It's not going to be an easy game. We've seen West Virginia. They can. I mean, shoot. They went toe to toe with TCU. It was a really good game.
They had a chance to win the game in the last 2 minutes. They were driving and could have won the football game.
But that was in Morgantown. That was kind of probably their Super Bowl, if you will, with an undefeated top 10 team coming to town. And now it's letdown city for them. They go on the road to face an 0-5 team in conference. Iowa State's gotta get this game. And you mentioned how long it took for Deckers to start running the football. He only ran it 4 times, and he was still the leading rusher on the team. I mean,
I don't think he ran until the fourth quarter either, which I don't get. Like, it worked against Texas. It loosened everything up. It made his life easier as a throw quarterback. Why was that not part of the game plan?
I mean, he threw the ball 57 times.
He's not good enough to do that, Like, and he, for one, he doesn't see the field well. He's still a young quarterback. He's been in the program, but he's seen games for the first time. He is a guy where he has to have help. And I feel bad for him because there's a lot of fans who are like, oh, well, what's the backup look like? Like, I'm telling you guys, that would be a true freshman who's not physically ready or mentally ready yet, or a walk-on. For Iowa fans listening, it's Marv Cook's boy, Ashton, is their. I think he would be the backup quarterback. And I don't think that's fair to anyone. I still think, I was talking to Sage Rosenfels, a guy who's been in the pros for a decade. He still thinks Hunter Deckers is maybe the most talented guy to come through there. But they've got to help him out. Like, he's seeing ghosts as we keep the Halloween theme going. He's now, I think, a lot of those turnovers in the fourth quarter, he was just trying to do something because nobody else could do anything, right? Like, I think he was pressing. They've got to find a way to help him out. I feel bad for him at this point, and he's not playing great. I mean, he underthrew that ball in the first half. It shouldn't have been an interception, but he deserved to have an interception on it. It was underthrown. He's not playing great either. He's turning the football over too much, all of that. But to me, this all starts with the offensive line and the inability to run the football, in this case against a bad defense. And it's so disheartening coming off of a bye week because you thought you had some progress against Texas. Remember, I kept saying, and I was dead wrong here, we admit when we're wrong on 2 guys named Chris. And I thought when you got to the bye week, Iowa State would come out and look a lot different. And they didn't at all. In fact, they took a step backwards.
This was their worst game of the season. Was it not?
Yeah, it may have been. I hadn't thought about it that way, but just as flat as they looked offensively, I think that's a very fair statement.
I do think that this season was kind of lost, not on this game, but on the inability to get over the hump earlier in the conference season. I think that we're still undervaluing how talented Oklahoma is, and I do think Oklahoma is going to end up with maybe 9 wins. By the time we're all said and done.
I don't think it's shocking either that Brent Venables' defense comes out after a bye and looks a lot better. I think that was pretty expected to some degree.
But the big issue with Deckers is the turnovers, right? Well, when you're throwing the ball 57 times, chances are you're gonna throw some bad ones. That's just too many for a team that scored 13 points in a low-scoring game too. I mean, there were only 40 points combined in this game, and Iowa State wasn't down double digits for most of this game.
No, just right at the end.
To have him throw it that much without, as you said, using his legs until it was too late. I mean, that's by far, I think, the most he's thrown the ball all season. I mean, going back and looking at his other numbers, he threw 48 times against Kansas. That's the only other time he threw it even more than 38. So only one time going into that game did he throw for more than 40. He goes for 57 times. And I get it. I mean, if you're Tom Manning, you're probably saying, well, we couldn't run the ball. What do you want me to do? We tried. We both of the guys, both of Iowa State's running backs got 11 carries, and neither one of them got to 30 yards. I mean, it is offensive line related, and I think we do tend to undervalue the offensive line and how important it is. Just go look at what Iowa did against Northwestern last week, and it just goes to show you what a difference when you start blocking guys and opening up holes for your run game. Your quarterback all of a sudden becomes a lot better, and you all of a sudden get a lot more protection with the quarterback. And Iowa State's just not getting that with Deckers, and right now he's a walking turnover because of that.
Yeah, I just have a lot of fans after these games, and they ask, what is wrong? Well, there's clearly, like, I would point at the scheme, and I would say they have to be more creative because they can't run the football. But if you're like, hey, Chris, circle a position or a spot that is the core of this, and it's clearly the offensive line. They needed to take a step forward this year, and unfortunately they've taken a step backwards, I would say, compared to even last year where the offensive line was a disappointment. And John Miller is just he's all full of piss and vinegar today. He says Iowa State is not sponge-worthy.
They're definitely not sponge-worthy.
Another
not this year.
Sign. You know who is sponge-worthy? It's our friends at the Circus Sports. How's that for a segue?
They keep giving us the good lines over there.
Yeah, the best lines you can get, and we can't wait. We'll know here for sure in a couple days. But two guys named Chris, I believe, will be broadcasting from out there in December for a little Cyhawk basketball. Ooh. The best property. Are you a Vegas guy at all? We haven't talked about this.
No.
The Strip sucks.
I've been there several times.
I love Vegas. I do not like going on the Strip because you think of the Strip and you think of it like, oh, you can just walk from casino to – no, it's like a giant interstate, and
right.
It takes like 30 minutes to walk from one place to another.
And you got these idiots every 5 steps that are trying to get you to come to their little strip joints and handing you little things, putting stickers on you.
Yeah. I like downtown, and that's where Circa's located.
Ooh.
It's
all right.
Much more blue collar.
Yes.
There's nothing blue collar about Stadium Swim, though. It's the best. It's the best thing Vegas has to offer for sports fans.
That looks amazing. I've seen a lot of people post pictures from there on social media, and
I kind of thought we could.
Great.
Just
Are we going to do the
shirt.
show in the pool?
I thought we could just do it with our shirts off, just sitting there drinking, talking Iowa State basketball.
That sounds like your old Ross Peterson show, if you ask me.
Shout out to Circa. Download that Circa Sports Iowa app today. All right, the Hawkeyes, they snapped out of their slump and really handled Northwestern. That game was never in doubt. There was never a point where you thought Iowa might be, I guess maybe right there in the third quarter, Northwestern got within one score, and you're maybe like, you start clinching just a little bit, but the Hawkeyes really dominated a bad team. But nonetheless, that's progress, right?
How about giving me some credit here for my predictions this week, Chris? I said
you nailed them.
I said Oklahoma would win by double digits. I said that Petrus would start. Now, I don't know if I said that on this podcast, but I went on
you
Murph
did.
and Andy and said that.
Well,
but
you
most people
referenced
said
it.
that. But I also said I'm only going to get to watch the first half of the Iowa game before I have to go to my game, and we're going to know in that first half. We're going to know. And sure enough, 4 drives, 4 scores, we knew. That game was over. Don't give it to me in the third quarter, Northwestern cutting it to a score. That was never a game. Now the question becomes, is this the Nevada game, or was this really turning some kind of a corner, or at least, as you said, making progress on offense? I don't know that you could say they didn't make progress on offense. I just don't know that you can say it's going to make that much of a difference in these games against the Purdues and the Wisconsins moving forward. Because Northwestern is terrible.
Yeah, they're really bad.
They have 1 win. And it was a long time ago in a land far, far away in Ireland.
Against
the bad
Scott
Nebraska
Frost.
team. Yes. So what I will say is I'm happy. I'm happy that they put forth that performance, and Spencer Petras looked competent. The running game was there. The offensive line had their best game of the season, no question. And I really liked what they did with putting the wide receivers in motion and using that misdirection and the jet sweeps. And that really, I think, surprised Northwestern. Will it surprise anybody moving forward? I'm not sure. You give a defensive coordinator a full week or more to look at that tape and game plan for that. Maybe it's a different story. But there's nothing I can complain about with what Iowa did this week, because you play the teams that are in front of you. That's a Big Ten team on your schedule every year. You might be able to complain about the starting quarterback, and maybe Padilla would have been the better choice moving forward. Maybe Petras is just going to fall right back into what he's been doing his entire career moving forward. But on this day against that team, it couldn't have gone any better. Could it have?
No, and mainly too, it's funny. I stopped at a gas station on my way up to Ames, and I was on 35. So it's really cool on a Saturday morning doing that in Des Moines, because you see people in Iowa gear, they're getting ready to head east. Iowa State gear, they're heading north. And I was looking at these Iowa fans specifically, and I was like, man, these people are diehards, that they're still going to go on, because it's so boring, right? Like, not like, oh, they're supporting their, like, it's just a really boring product to watch. And the biggest thing I could say, if you're an Iowa fan and you went to that game, not just because you won, but it wasn't a boring football game. Mm-hmm. Like, it was actually an entertaining football game to watch. And to your credit, yeah, Northwestern stinks, but you do what they didn't win it on a game-winning field goal, right? So that tells me that Iowa's considerably better than the worst team in the Big Ten. And I guess at this point, what more could you ask for after what we saw the week before at Ohio State, where you were that much worse than the best team in the Big Ten? That was a step forward.
And if that game would have gone sideways, if the offense didn't look good,
yeah,
boy, it would be a much different conversation right now, because of Kirk Ferentz deciding to go, oh, there's a ghost. Is that a ghost or a goblin?
That is my daughter, Cameron, and she just scared the hell out of me. And then here comes my other daughter.
I thought that was Annabelle.
Here, Cameron,
what's going on?
You want to say hi to Uncle Chris?
Hi.
She just crawled out of bed too, so she's got bed head and everything. I was opposite of you. I was shocked that they started Spencer Petras. Really, like, I couldn't believe it. I was not on board with you. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, we can. Sorry. I'm sorry. I thought that Padilla would get the start. I texted you right when it happened, and I was just like blown away. Like that. Again, I can't even be critical of it. Petras was fine in this game. I thought for sure, like it, and again though, I would go back to man, like what are you thinking in the mind of if you're Alex Padilla now?
Yeah, it's pretty unfair, right?
I mean, you know how far back you are at this point.
He only got in the worst situation of the entire season, down big at Ohio State when everything was falling apart and it was a complete mess and it was a no-win situation. And I think that's why people like you thought, oh, Ferentz had to go with Padilla, right? No. When they were listed as oars on the depth chart,
you nailed it.
Right then, and I think most Iowa fans felt the same way. We know Kirk Ferentz. I know you do too, but there was no way, unless Padilla was way better than Petrus in practice, which is impossible because Petrus is he's Brett Favre in practice basically. And again, Ferentz said that after the game. They were asking him, when did you make this decision? How did you make this decision? And it obviously came down to Petrus is just better in practice. That's the bottom line. It worked this week. We will see moving forward. And they said, the sideline reporter said, Kirk Ferentz told them in meetings, and Brian Ferentz too, that the leash for Petrus was extremely short in that game. That if he showed any signs of, and I would guess that it would be like an interception or a fumble, something like that, that they would have yanked him for presumably Alex Padilla. I hope that leash is still short against Purdue and Wisconsin and Minnesota coming up. It's Northwestern, okay? You looked good, but it was Northwestern. We're not resetting it totally to Petrus is way up here and Padilla's way down here. It still should be, if Petrus really struggles early on at Purdue, he should be on a short leash.
For me, if I'm just being honest, this doesn't really change my opinion on Iowa at all. Like, that's what they should have done against Northwestern. But you still have to give them credit. But, like, I'm not, like, going into this Purdue game thinking, like, they turned the corner. Like, I don't.
And I think that's the only way you can look at it. I don't think anything's changed either. I don't think they're going to go and win 7 games. I still think they're going to lose this week at Purdue. I still think they're going to lose to Wisconsin. I'm not sure that they beat Minnesota at Minnesota. I think they might only win one more game the rest of the way. We'll see. I hope they prove me wrong.
I think they'll get to 6-6. I think that.
So you think they're going to beat Minnesota and Nebraska?
Yeah, they'll beat somebody.
You really think that they can beat Purdue or Wisconsin?
Where are they at now again? They're
at Purdue this week.
They're going to lose. They're going to lose that. I think that they're
home against Wisconsin.
Yeah, but I don't know. Those Big Ten West teams are just like throw them all in a bowl. Like they're like none of
Purdue.
These. No, I don't think they'll win this weekend. I'm wiping that one out.
Purdue's different. Purdue is a team that
I'm saying the rest of those teams though, like you're just like a pick 6 away from 16-10 win or whatever. However Iowa puts it together. I just think their defense and special teams are good enough to get them to 6-6 in that division.
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting it. I think that there is a chance that they can become bowl eligible. But do we really? Let's be honest. It's 2022. Half the team, much more than half. What is it? 70, 75 of the 131 teams make a bowl game.
Extra practices, Chris.
I don't know, man. Look, if this team accomplishes it, great.
We can go and cover the New Mexico Bowl live.
Yeah,
go to Albuquerque.
The bowls have gone so downhill that I'm not even aware what the tie-ins are anymore. Things have changed
they all
so much.
Mixed up, yeah.
I mean, we're so far gone from the days of, the Big Ten can go to the Alamo Bowl, and it's just the names are different. I mean, there's a bowl game and I'm doing it again today, the bowl projections with Jerry Palm. And there was a bowl last week that he had projected. It was 2 top 25 teams playing in Jacksonville in a bowl I've never heard of. It was like the GoSlingIt.com bowl. I have no idea what it is. No idea what it used to be. That's part of the problem. But
sounds like a great bowl game.
Yeah, GoSlingIt.com. Iowa won't be in that one. I'll tell you that. This week we'll find out if this offense has made big strides against Purdue, because they're gonna have to score to stay in that game.
Okay, let's get to some other college football topics here on Two Guys Named Chris. This is a really big deal. The story broke on a Sunday morning, which was so a little background. I had to be in Ames early on Saturday because I got a one-on-one with Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, which was great.
He was there?
Yeah, he was there for the game.
What the hell was he doing at the Iowa State-Oklahoma game?
I think he's trying to get around all the campuses and go to as many games as possible. He's still new, so he's trying to get to know all these people and, FaceTime with presidents and all that stuff.
Okay. Wow, you got a one-on-one with him?
Yeah. So I was going there, got there early, got about 20, 30 minutes with him, which was great.
Just you?
Yeah, just me.
Wow. Little old Chris Williams.
Anyways, I didn't know. It's kind of the bitch of it is I didn't know the Big 12 was going to get its new television deal. I didn't know it was like a done deal because that got reported by Sports Business Journal at about like 8:30 in the morning on Sunday, 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. So I couldn't talk to him about that. I mean, I talked to him about like the nuances and stuff of television negotiating and all that. Mm-hmm. But then this story breaks. So it was a hell of a 24 hours for me as far as the business of the Big 12 goes. This is a really big deal, Chris. Iowa State basically in Big 12 schools without Texas and Oklahoma is getting a raise. I mean, they're looking at like a bare minimum of a $9 to $10 million a year raise in television revenue. And that could be a lot larger depending on what the playoff pays out going forward as well. And there's a couple of ways of looking at this. If you want to be negative, and this is a fair point, well, you're still X amount of million behind the Big Ten and the SEC. I have been saying from day one with all of this, if you're a Big 12 program, you just can't, you're not in that hemisphere now, and you can't, you need to be the best of the rest. And this all but secures the Big 12's stability going forward because it's going to pretty clearly be the third highest paid conference. And we'll see what happens with the Pac-12, right? Because there's a lot of stuff, but you're clearly ahead of the ACC now. And this is a really big win for a conference, Chris, that has not had stability in decades. The last time the Big 12 truly had stability, I would think would be, in the middle of the 2000s. And I don't even know if I would call it that there. You don't have to worry about the realignment crap anymore if you're the Big 12. And for
you don't
recruiting,
have to worry about the Iowa fans saying, "Well, you guys there'll be a spot for you in the Missouri Valley."
Correct. All that's done, and it's such a big deal. And I can tell you, talking to these coaches, I talked to an Iowa State coach last night, just being able to, put this in, like, for a recruit and to be able to say, no, like, the Big 12 is going to not only going to exist, it's going to thrive. It's going to be on ESPN and Fox. We're not, and I don't think it would have been a nightmare to take Amazon's money and have some games on Prime and stuff. In fact, I hope that they go that route in some form in the future. But this is a really big deal for this conference. And again, it got buried on a Sunday morning, unfortunately. But from an Iowa State standpoint, I've covered this program and this conference for 20 years now. This is some of the best news Iowa State has gotten that I can remember. But it's not going to get played like that. Unfortunately, you're 0-5, right? It's just not getting that type of pub. But this is a very massive deal for this conference.
I love what the Big 12 is becoming. I mean, it would be better with Texas and Oklahoma, yes, but I love the teams that they added. UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, all schools with big upsides with, the bounce house. Did you see UCF when they
So
were hosting
cool.
Cincinnati over the weekend.
Yeah.
They've got a great fan base, a great atmosphere. Cincinnati packs the place. Houston is up and coming. You know, they're having a little bit of a disappointing season, but they have a nice new facility. We know what they do in basketball with Final Four teams. And BYU, amazing atmosphere at BYU on Saturdays. I love what the Big 12 is and what it's going to be in the future. And, you know, as a Big Ten fan, it's great that the schools are making money. How does that help me? What does it do for me? You're adding UCLA and USC, and you've got Rutgers and Maryland, and how often are you going to play the actual Big Ten schools? How often are you going to play Michigan and Ohio State and Michigan State, and even might have schools like Illinois that aren't protected anymore, like maybe Wisconsin and Minnesota that aren't protected anymore. And the Big 12 is just, I think it has a lot of potential, and I think they went to the right places where you're adding UCLA. Compare UCLA's atmosphere at a game, fan support, passion, to BYU. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get that UCLA is a much, 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 much bigger brand, but man, it's going to be cool to go play at BYU and play it at UCF. And, you know, in the Big Ten, is it fun going to Rutgers, Maryland, UCLA? I don't know.
So that I did talk to your Mark. He kind of brought it up because I was trying to go a different route with him, not asking the same questions that everybody else has.
Yeah, you're an outside the box man.
We're talking about expansion. Like if they
did you wear your DILF costume when you interviewed him?
No, Here's the funny thing: you said that. If I hadn't had that interview, I probably would have worn it to the press box. I've worn Halloween costumes to the press box before. I try and keep it light, you know. Mm-hmm. Those damn press boxes are so sterile. Drives me crazy. Just smile, somebody. Can you just have a good time like you're at a football game? Anyways.
I'm with you, man. I don't like the press box feel. I'm glad I don't have to do that as an announcer. I can go into the TV booth where the window comes open and you feel like you're out with the fans and you get the atmosphere. You're not all enclosed in. I don't think fans realize how sterile that environment is in a press box.
Fans think it's like great place to watch a game. It's not.
It's not like you're in a suite where you can go outside and kind of sit with the fans and have the doors open and all that. It's like quiet. You hear the writers over there just chowing down on the food,
farting.
Oh God!
Have you ever walked into the Jack Trice Stadium? It's a little different than Kinnick. The Jack Trice Stadium press box bathroom only has one toilet or two toilets. It's very small. The stench of sports writer farts in that place is just horrific because it just kind of, and there's no air conditioning in the Trice one either. So when they're farting, you know that it rises. It is just kind of like floating around.
There's no air conditioning in the press box?
No, not at Trice.
Well, thank God they got this new Big 12 deal.
Yeah.
Put some of that money into the press box, for God's sake. There's no air conditioning?
No. My God.
What's wrong with you guys?
Those early September games are brutal. And, you know, and a lot of us, you know, sports writers, we're not in the best shape. It's actually a little terrifying. You look over there and it's sweating. Anyways.
Jeez.
Your Mark was talking. So the point I made to him, and I've made this point before, but the Big 12 schools that are left have all been told for a decade plus that nobody else wants them, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're kind of like, but they're also all like, find me a school in this current Big 12 that like where their fans aren't crazy in some capacity. Maybe not in every sport, but they're rabid fan bases. And I told him, I was like, it seems to me like this is as unified as I've ever seen the league. And he said, you're absolute. He like interrupted me because he wanted to jump in on this so badly. And he pointed out, and we'll see, But if they do expand, that the number one thing for them, other than revenue, of course, it has to make sense revenue-wise, is like fit and culture, which tells me like I don't think that they're just going to bend over backwards to get like Arizona State, right? Like I think that they'd actually be better off taking like Arizona, who smaller town, really great elite basketball program, but like the fans are just more engaged in Tucson than they are in Phoenix because you don't have the Suns and you don't have the Cardinals and you don't.
Right.
I don't know. It was really insightful. I did post that podcast. It's up on the Cyclone Fanatic one, and I'm going to write some stuff about it today. But just all in all, a really, really positive day there. And came out of nowhere. I did not expect it on a Sunday morning. I thought we were going to get that news in the next couple of weeks, but big deal. Some other notes from around college football. As we stay on the Big 12 topic, Bruce Feldman from The Athletic, really good reporter, tweeted on Sunday night that he thinks that this current Big 12 is the most unpredictable conference he's ever seen in his career. And he was referencing the Kansas State 48-0 beatdown of Oklahoma State. That made no sense at all. Oklahoma State didn't even get off the bus.
We both thought that was a weird line.
It's one of my locks of the week.
Should we? Because Kansas State had all the injury concerns.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm surprised Oklahoma State didn't drop more in the polls. Like I thought they might drop from 9 all the way out. I think they only dropped 9 or 10 spots. But Jesus, you get beat like that. You're a top 10 team.
It was horrible.
It's not like Kansas State is Ohio State.
No, they had a backup quarterback. They had a backup quarterback and holes all over their roster.
I don't know how you explain it. Now you got TCU and Kansas State atop the rankings. Might get a rematch of that game in the championship.
The other Big Ten story I kind of wanted to hit on before we get to some NASCAR. Boy, this Michigan State fight. Did you see that after the game? My God.
I don't know how does this even happen?
So I don't know what the Michigan guy. So apparently there's like a tunnel that they all like come in and out of.
Right.
So like at most stadiums, you have two areas where one team will go in one direction and the other one goes another. Apparently,
which is how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing a violent game. So, and I don't know. I'm sure we're going to learn more. But this one Michigan guy is like entering this tunnel at the same time as the entire Michigan State team, and then you saw the video there, and they all just jumped him.
And I'm going to withhold judgment because while there's no place for trying to kick and punch this guy when he's by himself with no help.
Yeah, you have helmet on.
We don't know what this Michigan guy was doing or what he was saying or if he had anything coming to him. Yeah, I don't know. What if he did that all on his own? He went in there and he was
I don't know.
Talking shit to these guys. What do you think's going to happen? I don't know if he did that or not. Jim Harbaugh's pissed. They got the police involved. I'm glad that somebody got that guy out of there.
Mel Tucker's suspended like 4 players so far. But the Big Ten's going to be probably issuing more than that. My biggest point here, just from a football standpoint, is the fall from grace that Mel Tucker and Michigan State have had over the course of a year.
They had one good season. You had a great running back in Kenneth Walker. I mean, look what he's doing in the NFL right now. He's probably going to be the rookie of the year. The runs he's put together for that team, amazing. But to pay him $100 million because of one season? I mean, we knew Michigan State wasn't going to be what they were last year. Did we know that they would be maybe last place in the division bad? Maybe not. They're sitting there 3-5 overall, 1-4 in conference play, and they're getting their asses kicked.
Mm-hmm.
They lost by 29 to Ohio State, by 22 to Michigan, by 27 to Minnesota. They lost by 14 to Maryland. Washington beat them by multiple scores. They made their bed. I mean, they paid the guy. They better hope he can turn this thing around because they suck.
And unfortunately for him too, I bet I read a bunch on this over the last 24 hours, and the view from above is his players assaulting that guy. It's like a direct reflection of his program. So like, not only are you losing, but now it looks like things have completely unraveled as well.
Yeah, and who knows what happened there?
We'll see.
I'm gonna withhold judgment just until the facts come out. It looks really ugly. It sounds like the Michigan guys are all right, thankfully.
I think he had like a broken nose. I think I read something like that, but
because that could have been bad. I mean, you get embarrassed in a rivalry game, and yeah, they should do something about it, no question. But let's hold off judgment until we get more of the facts.
The other thing, I wanted to show everybody this entrance that Tennessee makes. This is the single coolest thing I've ever seen in college football. The way like the lights are out, the band like separates, and there's a T that they form in the middle of the field with fireworks. Tennessee is right now the coolest program in college football. I will go on the record right now. That is badass. What a brand they are building down there with Josh Heupel.
And they've always come out in the T, but I've never seen it black out like that and with the fireworks.
So cool.
I don't know if that was only because it was a blackout uniform night. They had the black uniforms, Halloween weekend. I'm not sure if they always do it like that, but God, that was great. And it was kind of like the scene after they beat Alabama with the fireworks going off. And, man, they love their football there. They put a lot of resources into that thing. I love it when Tennessee's really good. There's certain programs where I like it when they're really good, and Tennessee football is one of those because growing up in the 90s, I always loved – Tennessee always played at night. They were always in that night game on ESPN in a big game, whether it was Peyton Manning or before that. They had the best fans, packed that place, 100,000 strong, SEC. It's good to see the SEC East is good again. Even though Florida still sucks, but you got Tennessee and Georgia, and they're playing this week in Athens, and it looks like Tennessee might be up to the task. I mean, what they've been doing recently, they have the best resume of anybody in the country.
They
just did to Kentucky.
I think I just saw that they are tied. I think them and Ohio State are tied in the AP
for second in the AP poll, but I think the playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. I think Tennessee is going to be number one based on their resume.
I would put them number one. Would you, if you had a vote?
I think just based on the resume alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I would too.
I probably would.
This one for me, the Kentucky, that was kind of a prove-it game to me. Mm-hmm. Because they played UT Martin last week after the Bama win. It was like, that was really, really impressive. Because Tennessee's well-coached, good defense, elite quarterback, and Tennessee made Kentucky just look bad.
And how much better does the win at LSU look, too? LSU's a top 15 team now, I believe. They went in there and they won 40-13.
God, that smug-ass Brian Kelly can coach everywhere he goes.
He can. And
everywhere
and that's
he
this
goes.
week, too. Alabama at LSU in a game that's probably going to decide the SEC West. Ole Miss still might have a say, but Alabama at LSU and Georgia hosting Tennessee the same weekend. Whew. Hard to get much better than that.
The last thing I had.
Oh, and we have Ohio State at Northwestern, Chris, in case you forgot.
Oh,
Northwestern
God.
gets to play Ohio State now. What do you think the line for that is?
I mean,
it's at Northwestern.
30, 31.
So you'll have 10 Northwestern fans in the stands.
31. Really? For a Big Ten road game?
Big Ten team is at home, and are getting 38 points.
That is crazy. I would probably still take Ohio State.
Yeah. I made the mistake of taking Ohio State this week against Penn State. They almost backdoor covered. Almost. Couldn't get
I had them in a teaser, so they were. By the way, last Saturday, the worst sports betting day of my life. Horrible.
Really?
Horrible. I think I got like 2 games.
Did you take the
right.
Iowa Northwestern under?
I did.
Oh boy.
Got sucked right in. Not very often I can brag about NASCAR. Did you see this?
That was awesome. And I'm not a racing fan at all. I originally, Brock's playing the video right now for us if you're watching on YouTube, but if
keep
not,
playing that, Brock. Just keep playing that for us.
So I originally I was on Twitter and I saw somebody had made a GIF, so it wasn't like the actual video, and I couldn't figure out what was going on because it looked like this guy on a caution lap, like lost control of his car, and the brakes didn't work. So I thought he was trying to slow down his car by ramming it up against the wall and trying to avoid running into the back of the other cars. And then I see the video full speed, and no, this is the last lap. And he's passing all these cars by ramming up against the wall and flooring it.
And the craziest part is the last car that he passes, number 11 right here, okay?
In the FedEx.
Right there. That's Denny Hamlin's car. Hassel, so next week is their championship week where only 4 drivers advancing can go to the championship. Number 1, all he had to do was pass number 11, or not all, that's what he had to do to get into the championship 4, and that's how he did it, on the last corner of the last lap, and that got him into the championship race.
And that's
how
why
insane
he did
is
it, right?
that?
He knew he had to pass Denny Hamlin. That was Hamlin, right?
Yes.
And so I've just, you talking about thinking outside the box.
Did you see his quote after the race?
No.
He goes, they asked him, where did you think of a move like that? And anybody like our age, probably not you, I can't see you playing NASCAR games, but he goes,
Yeah, I played the NASCAR game.
He goes, well, I played a lot of NASCAR 2005 on the GameCube growing up. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, because in the games, you would bang up against the wall all the time. You would hit that wall because you'd floor it, and you'd still keep going. You'd be fine. And man, that's pretty damn cool what he did, and that's gonna make me a little interested to see what he does. In the championship.
That was a great day for that sport, no doubt. They don't get that type of buzz.
Here's the thing about racing. You see these cars, stock cars, so they all look the same, and you're just like, I don't know. Is it the car? Is it the driver? What are they really doing that's special? Because you don't know unless you're in a car like that what they're actually doing and how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see something like that's totally outside the box, I think that was maybe the best maneuver in racing history.
It is definitely in the long history of that sport. That is like a top 3 moment, I think. It's like iconic moments. Because the thing is, how he, like, if he just would have done that in a normal race, it would have been really, really cool. And we all still would have been talking. The fact that he passed Hamlin, by a nose at the finish line, and it worked. Like, it did that's the only way he could have gotten into this next round of this playoff. Like, it just is, it's an iconic moment.
Is that going to change racing?
Well, so they're already talking about that, and because kind of the purists out there are like, well, we can't have guys doing that all the time.
Uh-huh.
Because that's, one, it's probably pretty dangerous, I would assume. Have you seen the in-car camera, like from in his car? He basically said, he goes, I just threw it into the wall and I closed my eyes and I was
because the flaps are coming up.
Yeah.
Because when you see it from the wide view, it almost looks like it's pretty easy, right? I mean, you can't, but when you see the in-car view, you see how, that car is acting like it's in a crash.
It looks like it's sped up, like the video. And they also, that was the fastest lap in the history of Martinsville Speedway.
Yes, I think it was the fastest lap that I was looking at the last lap statistics, and like most guys were running that last lap somewhere between 20 and 21 seconds, and he did it in 18.
Yeah, which on a half-mile track is a massive Massive difference. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be so. There's a lot of the purists and stuff, the older racers that are like, yeah, like that was a really cool move, but man, we can't like. I hope people don't start doing that all the time. And so I just wonder if NASCAR, like in the off season, will make a rule against that because, you know, you go to a track
rule against just flooring it against the wall.
Well, if you did that, like you have to do it on the last corner because it tears your car up,
right?
And also it's spraying debris out over the rest of the track.
Mm-hmm. Good
to
point.
Like, you know, like that guy's car is torn up.
He didn't start doing that until turn 3 and 4, right? It's not like he did that the whole lap. It was midway through that last lap. He just put it up against the wall, and God, that's what a badass.
He is this guy's background. Ross Chastain is his name. I don't think we've ever said it.
I've never even heard of this guy.
He's a farmer. Like he
sounds like a country singer.
He is
going to see Ross Chastain tonight.
They always talk. He's a watermelon farmer, and so when he was coming up through the ranks. Whenever Ross Chastain would win a race, like in the Truck Series or that somebody would come and give him a watermelon, and he'd go up on top of his car and he'd spike it down and smash it on the
comedian. Well, who's the comedian? Gallagher, that used to smash watermelons up on stage.
Oh, I don't know who that guy is. I don't know that. But anyways, it was cool. And it got a lot of buzz. All right.
Well, really did not think that we would talk about NASCAR on Two Guys Named Chris unless I was just bashing it. But I'll allow this one today. That was cool.
That on an NFL Sunday, for NASCAR to get the type of pub that it did, something crazy has to happen.
Yeah. And it did, baby.
All right. Well, we will be back on Thursday to see if Iowa State can get off the schneid. Hawks at Purdue. Oh, this is the Charlie Jones game.
Oh, God.
Let's talk about that. We'll see what that brings to us. I forgot about that. Do that all week.
And so now, I'm not sure if you did because you had the Iowa State game. Did you see how the ESPN broadcast started the Iowa game?
No, I didn't. I mean, I've watched the Iowa game, but I didn't. I fast-forwarded through all that stuff.
They came on the air by showing video of like a 1920s game between Northwestern and Iowa in black and white with like the old, the music from the 20s, and they showed Iowa coming out of the tunnel in black and white. That's how they were hyping the game. If you like football from the 20s, you're gonna love what we have for you today on ESPN.
I did notice that the guys calling the game, is it just a play-by-play thing for you guys where you just want to be ultra positive? Is that like, because these guys are all like, this Iowa offense isn't too bad. Look at this. They're making progress. Like it was like they were cheering for Iowa to just have any offensive success whatsoever.
The networks do. Well, the networks are partnered with the conferences.
Yeah.
So in essence, they're partnered with the schools. And so they want you to paint things in as positive of a light as you can. I think it's up to the announcers and the production crew to make sure you're also being fair and not being a cheerleader and showing the whole story. And I think that they do that for the most part, but I will say it does put the announcers in a different position compared to just a regular fan during the week, because you are sitting down and speaking one-on-one, in a lot of cases in person, with these coaches. And some of them embattled. You usually meet with the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator. Sometimes you meet with players as well. It humanizes them. You have a connection with them, and so they kind of have a different perspective. And they don't want to say anything bad about them that would make these coaches not want to talk to you in the future. Or
it's a tricky deal.
It is. So I think that's why a lot of times you'll hear these announcers sound like they are, trying to put lipstick on a pig, so to speak.
Yeah, it was quite it wasn't Matt Millen, but
Well, yeah, that was next level. The Matt Millen.
Spencer Petras is a good quarterback, you idiots.
Listen here, fans. If you think that Iowa would be any better with any other quarterback, you are sadly mistaken, because this is the best you're going to do. And I'm telling you right now, this kid is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen in college football. So be happy with what you got.
Morons.
Was that the Nevada game that he kept?
Yeah.
What game was that?
And it was accentuated because that game just took so long. And we were all like, by the end, if you were still watching it, you were drunk and delirious. And then you have Matt Millen preaching at you at 1 o'clock in the morning.
And not taking into account that Nevada is one of the worst teams, one of the worst 15 teams, maybe the worst 5 teams in all of college football.
Oh,
and that's what I think a lot of Iowa fans are trying to take into account, that this was against Northwestern. This wasn't Wisconsin or Purdue or even a Maryland. This is a really, really bad Northwestern team that's a 38-point underdog at home this week.
It was glaring to me as we wrap things up that Pat Fitzgerald, long thought of as one of the best coaches, not only in college football, but football. Really highly regarded guy, and God, they're bad.
I don't know how you let it slip this far. I mean, he's had some bad seasons.
Jeez.
Like, he would have a 3-win season, and then the next year they'd bounce back and somehow win the West. Man, this is as bad as Northwestern has been since, I think, pre-Fitzgerald. And he's been there. I think he's the second longest tenured coach. I know he's the second longest tenured in the Big Ten, but he's getting up there in the country as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, brother. Good show today. Appreciate it. Brock, thank you for filling in. You are the man. Good job, buddy.
Good job, Brock.
Thank you so much. Thanks to Fareway for sponsoring Two Guys Named Chris. We will be back on Thursday morning at 8:30 here in Iowa. Thanks for listening.